much for joining and thanks for your patience. We're slightly delayed with the start of our event because of technical issues. But let me first welcome all of you to this day one of the two-day web talk series that we have on international collaboration for entrepreneurship and startups. My name is Adashri Jamketkar and I head the program portfolio at the German Center for Research and Innovation, and I also co-head the startup projects that we have here. This is a two-day web talk series. Today is the first day, and we are going to delve into the topic of advancing women entrepreneurship, particularly in deep tech. As a background, the German Center for Research and Innovation has been engaging in connecting in Indian and German startup and entrepreneurship ecosystems over the last 6 years. And in several workshops that we've had with the public sector stakeholders on both the sides, as well as incubator heads, the topic of women entrepreneurship has been identified as one of the common topics of interest and also for joint future collaboration. Additionally, in the last intergovernmental consultations, there was also official declaration of intent for working together between public sector agencies, including us, and the Department of Science and Technology on both the sides to have the topic on their agenda to work and cooperate more. Now, to go ahead with the discussion today and steer today's discussion, I see that our moderator has also joined, so I will hand it over to her directly for steering the discussion. Let me introduce Dr. Birgit Stelzer, who is the head of the Entrepreneurs Campus at the University of Ulm in Germany. She's the moderator of the session today, and she will take over from here and introduce the rest of the panelists. But before I do that, short housekeeping announcement. If you are attending the event live today, as a participant, you can engage with the panelists in the chat mode option. Please feel free to type your questions, your comments in the chat option, and the moderator will take it up during the discussions or in the Q&A session at the end. Now, not to keep you waiting for the discussions to start, Dr. Birgit Stelzer, I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Adeshri. So after years of video calls, still these things happen. So thank you so much for being patient. Now I'm here. But it's not about my person, so it's about the panelists and all your opinions in the room. I'm just the moderator, facilitator of the session. So I want to give the room for our panelists, and might you please introduce yourself with your name and your role and your connection to the topic of women in entrepreneurship or in deep tech entrepreneurship, and maybe a fact that you want to share with the community in here. So let's start with Nita. Do you want to start?
Yeah, hi, Nita Sachan, venture partner at Silverneedle Ventures. It's a venture capital fund, early stage investment. Sorry, I thought I was speaking on unmute. Hi, I am Nita Sachan, venture partner at Silverneedle Ventures. My role in a venture fund has been in the last about 5 years or so, so fairly recent. I'm a scientist turned venture capital investor, so very different from what most VCs are in the country in India. It's probably a rare breed. A little bit about my venture fund. It's a seed to pre-series A. The ticket size is $500K US dollars to $1.5 million. I primarily invest in healthcare investments because that's my background. And but I do have a lot of interest in other product-based investments, deep tech investments. Little bit about myself. I got my PhD, so before that I studied at IIT Roorkee. I did my master's in biotech moved to US, got my PhD in drug development, did my postdoctoral fellowship in Dallas, UT Southwestern at Dallas, in cardiology, so internal medicine. Came back to India in 2009, so very, very early days for startup ecosystem in the country. The only, I think, big startups or big firms that we knew of, and I was a big fan, was Biocon, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, if at least most Indians on the group know of her. She's the biotech queen, huge inspiration. And I think that sort of inspired me that I want to be on the commercial side, because there are plenty of amazing scientists all over the world, but there are not many who make the switch on the other side. And I come from, so fun fact about me, and I can tell a little bit more story about why I got into the VC side, which happened only later. I've worked in several corporates, startups as well. I worked in Medtronic, worked in science, so product development, investments. Like fun fact about myself, I come from a family of scientists. I grew up among all, surrounded by, it was a campus, full of scientists. So I've done good, credible, amazing research work, published, gave great keynote talks at places. But I think what motivated me was that to move to the venture side or the commercial side was that I wanted to make an impact, not just see it in a publication form. Wanted to see the technology, see the light of the day, make an impact with touching lives. So that was my motivation, and that's why I continue to be on the, at least even on the investment side, to help at least a few entrepreneurs see their technologies get to a global scale, hopefully at some point. So yeah, that's about myself.
Oh no. Now can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So it's about #venture with you, Nita, healthcare, and fun fact, but motivation is generating impact, real impact, even or because you are a scientific driven person. Thank you so much for sharing. Maybe we switch to Germany. Sophie, do you want to continue?
Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, it's a very impressive introduction you made, Nita. So I'm probably not that impressive, but yeah, let's see how it goes. So my name is Sophie Louise Mossejko. I'm from Germany. I'm from the University of Rostock. I used to work for University of Greifswald. I studied in Berlin, Hamburg, and also in New York and Edinburgh, actually. However, I'm a mother entrepreneur, and I'm the lead of Exist Women here at University of Rostock. So I'm basically balancing a lot of things at the same time. But I guess it's the same for you here. My project Exist Women is basically that it's an initiative of the German government that we support female entrepreneurs with a scholarship and also a bit of extra money for investing in small things like an iPad or anything you need for that, basically. Currently, the Exist Women program is running. Actually, it's a 12-month program, and I have a lot of MINT and healthcare-based projects here at the university. So yeah, that's basically my perspective and my connection to female entrepreneurship. However, I am also an entrepreneur. I'm running 2 businesses with my husband at the same time, so I know what I'm talking about. I know the struggles of being an entrepreneur. And that's why I'd like to support all the women in that kind of field, because I know it can be kind of hard when you're a mother, when you're working, and when you do a lot of things and struggling sometimes with the household at the same time. So basically, that's my thing, and that's the thing I like to support. I like to support young women in that kind of field to be independent, to found their business, to look after their vision, and to fulfill their dreams in that kind of area. Yeah, thank you. That's basically about me.
Hashtag university program, Exist Women in Germany. Hashtag mother and entrepreneur. I love that. Thank you, Sophie, for sharing your, in brief, your experiences in with that balance. And hashtag, I call it maybe independency, becoming independent as a woman, even maybe in biased structures. Thank you so much, Sophie, for sharing your right now your experiences and your introduction. So maybe we switch to India again, and it's Pooja. Are you able to? And you're still muted. Sorry. I guess you have to end mute.
Audible
Yeah,
now?
demute yourself. Yes. Yeah, now it's perfect.
Sure. Thank you. So, hi, I'm Dr. Pooja Barak, and I'm a co-founder and CEO at a health tech startup. We are a very early stage startup based in Bangalore. We go by the name Symviq, where we are building AI-assisted eye scan solutions that can help identify various chronic diseases. And my journey, it started with doing engineering in biotechnology from Birla Institute of Technology in Ranchi, Jharkhand. Right after which I moved to Bangalore to pursue my integrated PhD program, which was 10 years long. It was supposed to be 7, but yeah, in biology and PhD, things really take a lot of time. Sometimes the experiments fail, and after lots of failures, you realize that it really doesn't matter. And so my journey into entrepreneurship wasn't really planned. I was applying for my postdoctoral training, and right there during the transition phase, I got an opportunity to work at a startup, a genomic startup, and that is where I realized that there is so much more that I can actually do outside of the academic lab in a startup ecosystem or industry, and that is what motivated me. So first I worked at this startup, and along with the founder of that startup, we came up with this idea of using eye scans for diagnosis of various diseases, and we started Symviq. We are about 2 years old now, and so I mean, my experience in the industry or in being in the ecosystem of startups has not been that long, but even in the short duration of 2.5 years of being in the startup ecosystem, I'm already experiencing and realizing that there are some hardships that women specifically might be facing because of various reasons, because of how we women are. We are, a lot of times we are not that strong with what we want and asking for what is right. And I think that comes from our upbringing, that we are more agreeable and more, I would say, studious. So I think we need to make our daughters go out and play and be mischievous, because I think that will help them in running their own startup one day. So I think this is my experience and brief background. Thank you.
Birgit, you have to unmute yourself, please.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, of course. I'm sorry. So again, a sum up for you, Pooja. Hashtag co-founder. You have a strong, long career in science. It's about chronic and rare diseases, I guess, which is even more a pain even to get funded in this area. It's about AI also, where you can be allocated with your small little and very impressive company. And I guess, yeah, we are all very curious about your perspective also on this topic today. Thank you so much, Pooja. Well, there is Dr. Abarishi left in our panel.
Yeah, Birgit, I'm so sorry. There seems to be a bit of a connectivity issue. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, finally, I'm able to get through. So,
yes,
everybody,
I've
hello,
made the same experience.
Glad to have many of you here in this session.
I guess she has connecting problems,
And
right?
Birgit, finally, we get to So for those who are hearing, I'm Dr. Abha Rishi. I am the executive head of the Madhya Pradesh Startup Center. This is the nodal agency for startups here in the state of Madhya Pradesh in India. And I have been working in the field of
Dr. Rishi, I think your network is quite patchy.
entrepreneurship
We,
for nearly
I understood Startup Center.
20 years now.
It's a mobile phone connection, so maybe it might be patchy because of that.
Yeah. So what I heard is Startup Center, 20 years of experience.
As a entrepreneurship educator.
Entrepreneurship education.
Then as
we only hear the buzzwords, right?
I think we would try to sort the connection with her in the background.
Yes, so maybe what I've get was Startup Center, 20 years of experience in entrepreneurship education, which is still
was
good.
the co-chair
I'm
for
so
the
sorry.
Foundation Task Force Committee from India.
Can you give her a sign, maybe? Thanks. That's not. I mean, that's not very polite to mute people, but yeah. Okay. So to get started the discussion, I brought a first question, and it's about what could be from your experience the main hurdles in women entrepreneurship. I would love to or I invite you to be very short, like don't explain your whole story and don't share your whole story, just the first thought in your mind. Please share that. What is the main hurdle in this great topic, women in entrepreneurship? So maybe Sophie, you start, and then you hand over.
Thank you very much. I worked actually with a lot of women in that field because I led the program already at another university before, and I have to assume that it's in Germany. It's one part is childcare, safetyness, and yeah, like being independent and finding another job, safety.
Perfect. You hand over to.
Yeah, I'd like to hand over to. Yeah, who's up there? I can't see any names.
Pooja, maybe.
Yeah, Pooja.
I suggest Pooja.
Yeah, hi. I think I had listed down a couple of them, but due to shortage of time, I'll give one example. Is how, as I already mentioned, how we bring up our daughters. So I'll give you a very quick example. I was maybe 12 years old, and we had gone for a dinner party at a family's house. And post dinner, we wanted to go out for a walk, and a friend's mother sends a 6-year-old boy with us so that we girls are safe, right? And we were just in a society. So this sounds really trivial, but so many such small things happen as we grow up, and these play up in our mind, and it sort of, I think, as we call the imposter syndrome, that you stop having so much confidence in yourself. So I think this is a systemic problem that we need to address, so that the women in general are more confident and they have more confidence in themselves and their abilities to do whatever they want to do, and that will then reflect in their journey to have their own startup or entrepreneurship. Yeah, so I hand over to maybe Nita. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Pooja. I think so. I've gone through all the challenges that both you and Sophie have mentioned. I've got 2 girls as well, so both one in college already and one on the way out. So I think I've been there, done that. But I think the biggest challenge, and I feel so, and this is all anecdotal and like what I've faced from 2 different geographies, living in US and living in India. Both my girls were born there, so I had a good enough childcare there. But when I came back to India, I faced a very different task. Culturally, it was a reverse culture shock for me because I was working all the time here. To find a good enough childcare was tough for me. But then I have to give all due credit to my support system, which is, I think, would not say it was family, but, we have a very good, the house help, right? So I will give a lot of credit to that. And while I'm saying I finished my PhD, I have working all throughout, and then I decided to do my MBA as well. And this was exec MBA along with the job. I was working at Medtronic at that point, moved to another big firm in leadership role. I think a lot of that I would say is motivation. I'm not saying that, yes, if I didn't have house help, there's no way I would have been able to. And then both my girls are type A personalities, both of them. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit more personal here, but extremely demanding, they were state level athletes, so equally, needed a lot of their time. But I think what we need to acknowledge is that we need that support system. Without that support system, I think it's very hard for women entrepreneurs, be it corporate workforce, be it VC. It gets tougher as you grow more senior in your roles. In fact, what you mentioned, Pooja, rings a bell in sense. At workplace, I did not tell my coworkers that I'm pursuing my exec MBA for this thing that maybe they would think, oh, I'm shirking work, but I was in actually leadership role and had multiple other work given to me. So I could not show that I'm doing anything less than my male colleagues. Even in fact, it was much more. So I would say it is my suggestion to a lot of my, or at least younger female, like if I mentees, would be that have mentors which are just not female. You need to have male mentors as well, because they should champion for you at each workplace, right? Or give you suggestion how to go about going about your work, right? Because it's not easy, because we feel that, oh, we should hide this from others, which I have done myself, right? So I don't think pushing it away is going to help in any way. So you should acknowledge the big elephant, get your male mentor. So I'll pause there. I'll let Brigitte bring in more perspective, and we can talk in a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Nita. So we heard about hurdles and also suggestions on how to solve these or overcome these hurdles. Nita, thank you. Having mentors, for example. I brought some visual eye catcher with me. So what I will do now is sharing a slide, and it's kind of summarizing, non-surprisingly, what you mentioned right now. I brought some studies from science about women and the gender gap in entrepreneurship, and then there's a phrase we could discuss on. So I try to share my screen. Give me some seconds. I hope it works. If not, we continue talking. So here we go.
Birgit, while you're trying that,
yes,
am I audible now? Better now? Is the audio better now?
Yes, it's better. It's much better. Do you want to add something? Oh, you just jump in now right into the conversation, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So here are the studies, and it's a little bit what you said, Nita, Sophie, and Pooja. It's about these traditional gender roles, right? The hurdles, systemic barriers, Sophie, I guess you mentioned that. And it's an OECD study, actually. And of course, Nita, you would maybe agree in that the persistent gender gap in venture capital funding, which we still have. And I want to add one aspect, Sophie, you came up with. It's not only about female and male, it's also about being a mother or having in mind becoming a mother and a male and a man. And then all these aspects with safety may come up. So what do you think about that? It is what I felt the last years from my perspective. So I'm a student. When we work with students, I'm at university level also, working with role models or even inviting mentors for them. Male students often have this feeling, oh my God, that's my future, becoming an entrepreneur. And women have more the feeling, oh wow, this could be something really crazy. I could be this one exceptional future role model. What do you think? Just share your thoughts and experiences.
Maybe I can start.
Yes,
this is like
course.
It's triggering me a bit, to be honest, because like when I was a student, it's not that long ago. It was 2013. I graduated with a master's diploma. I had a little bit of different feeling because I was at a private university in Berlin, and I always had the feeling that as a woman, I need to be an entrepreneur because how can I do it otherwise? I can't work within a big four company like for Deloitte, for McKinsey, or anything else, making money. However, when I want to be a mother at the same time, it's not possible. When I'm an entrepreneur, I can be independent. I can use my time as I want, basically. I can take my time to getting my kid to kindergarten. I can work whenever I want to, and that was actually my thought after my studies, that I want to be an entrepreneur because then I can do whatever I want and when I want it. That's basically the thing which was on my mind, and that's what I'm trying to give to other students actually, because of course as an entrepreneur you have to work double the time actually as someone who is working for the normal company. However, you are free to work whenever you want to, and that's what is not in the mind of a lot of women actually, but it was in my mind, so I couldn't understand it at the moment. But this citation was triggering me a bit, so I want to share my thoughts. In my opinion, it's not, I guess it's not for everyone, especially for scientists, but in my opinion it was like, no, I can never work like just basic 9-to-5 job. I couldn't. How should I do it with family life, with companies, with I have 3 horses. It's kind of a weird hobby, but I'm a hobby rider, and how should I do it anywhere else? I wouldn't have the time for it. So that was kind of triggering me a bit. That's what I wanted to share. You're still muted.
Right. Maybe, Sophie, thank you so much. Maybe you are this one exception in this panel. I don't know. You mentioned the group of scientists. Let's ask the group of scientists because she is here, Pooja. What do you think about this sentences?
Yeah, so I'll take a step back, like because my journey in the startup field is shorter, but even during my PhD, so I come from a family of farmers. Like my extended family, they do farming, and so coming from that background, and now here I have when I was even doing my PhD, people used to look at me in awe, like I am doing something really out of the world, and it's something unheard of because in so I come from a state in India where women education is not that, at least till many, many years back, it was not encouraged as much. I come from Haryana. So, but there were times when I used to feel, wow, I'm not really doing something that great. But then I think it is important that if some women, if we have just 2 or 3 role models, or if some woman is doing going for higher studies, and people are looking upon like with pride to what she's doing, it's important, because what it did was, I have at least 2, 3 examples in my extended family where the members then let their, I mean, it sounds really bad, they let the female study, but they encourage them. Oh, your sister has done that, you can also do that. So I think even though the statement that if a woman sees a woman entrepreneur or somebody at a higher position, and she looks at that person in awe, I think we should still be happy about it. At least there is somebody to look upon to, and then it will encourage many, many, many more females, younger females, to take that journey of studying, and whether it's startup, whether it's deep tech, whether it's doing anything of her own, or just getting a job. I think, especially coming from the Indian scenario, I think it's really important that we keep highlighting these women who have done something, achieved something, and talk about these at school levels and college levels, so that it encourages many, many more women to come forward.
Thank you, Pooja. Nita, do you want to add something?
Sure. I have some stats here. There, and we did discuss this earlier. This in India, there's more than average than global standards. There's 43% female who actually get STEM degrees, which is much higher than global or European standards, which is 34%. Women workforce in deep tech falls from 43% to 23%, which is a huge drop. There's 20% drop from graduate to being in workforce. And to leadership level, it drops even more. It's 5%, just 5% women end up in leadership roles in STEM field. Of that, let's say if some of them decide to do startups, from 43% STEM graduates, only 14% end up having startups, women founders as startups, right? Which is significantly lower than men. And any of these women who go for funding, it's only going to go lesser and lesser, right? State funding would be like less than 5% are getting funded, and Series A even less. So as it's, be it corporate or be it startups, the degree of number of women who are going to either being CXOs or getting funded is even lower. I believe the issue is much deeper. I think I think we mentioned about lack of mentors, lack of role models. I think it's also lack of women leaders who then are emulating, right? Even, which is true in, especially for startups, in investment network, underrepresentation of women in investment network, and especially even more, deep tech investments, right? So most of the investors in our country, there are not many deep tech investors in our country. Like there are handful of men who understand deep tech and would be investing. They're mostly driven by finance folks or accounting folks who see numbers, and numbers don't add up to understanding your deep tech, right? And then of the handful of people or even venture funds who are deep tech, they are even lesser handful, or even like probably in like numbers like maybe 3-4 women who understand deep tech. So that is the problem what we face, not just in India, I'm sure in Europe as well. And on a personal note, I get asked, I've mentioned to you ladies earlier that I get asked by a lot of folks, oh, you were a scientist. How come you're a VC? That's very strange. And I say, I wouldn't be asked this question in other geographies in US or in Europe. Why is this strange? Absolutely. In fact, we need more scientists turned investors. Forget about gender, right? Gender is not even an equation here. If you don't understand tech, how will you grow it? You just don't grow it by revenue. You need to understand the product. You need to understand how to sell deep tech. It's a very different ballgame. So that's the issue, the core issue, not just in India, globally.
I definitely agree with you, Nita. I have the same problem with I'm basically the mentor for those women and scientists. I basically have a woman in cardiology. She developed a very nice system actually to heal the scars on heart after a heart attack. So it's an amazing system. However, I need to explain to her that when you want VC, you have to explain it to the venture capital person as a manager. You can't explain it as a scientist, and that's a big problem actually also here in Germany. And also it's a big problem that we barely have any women in that kind of investing field. So I definitely agree with you that. Okay, it's the same in Germany.
I mean, just to add to that, since I'm presuming a lot of scientists on the group, so I would make 2 decks, usually one deck for people who don't understand science, because they want to just see numbers, right? Like, how do I grow from this fantastic product? I see there's a lot of overselling happens, some of the more savvy people, but if you're pure scientists, don't have much of business background, make it so simple, like you're explaining to a 5th grader, right? 5th grader, but then how do I make numbers? How am I going to grow from scale, A to scale Z? What is going to be the steps, right? Like if I am, as an investor, somebody who doesn't understand. There are very few investors who understand. So with me, in fact, I actually ask them to deep dive into the science part and then go with the numbers, because numbers are just, because with science, when you don't have a product, how are you going to show numbers, right? Like that's just story for me. So then I get into science, but then you need to have 2 decks. One is for the majority of investors who don't understand science. You want to show what's your game plan, what's your business model, how you're going to grow. And one for like deep tech people who really understand the science. So show the science and then show how am I going to go my roadmap from, year 0 to year 5.
Yeah.
That's it. That's interesting. My question would be, from this VC perspective, so if there are no many women, let's stick with this. This is a fact right now. But when it comes to this deal flow and the VC perspective, what are investors then missing when it comes to women founders? What is it?
At one point, I don't think we go by the gender, at least my perspective. In fact, being a woman is an advantage, because they do actually then look, okay, this is the pedigree, this is what she's done. They will definitely at least have your initial conversation, right? You need to be more visible. You need to be more vocal. You need to be more clear. I think women are not very clear in terms of what they are getting at. I think that's a lot of communication. There's a lot of how do you pitch it, right? Like, how do you make it plain and simple? Don't go very deep. As women, we tend to beat around the bush a lot. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but be more clear. Instead of saying like 5 sentences, say only 1 sentence, but make it the punchline, right? I think we need a lot of communication training as well. It could be with anybody, right? Like, and I'm happy to be mentor for folks who have actually somewhere advanced level, not like very early stage, but happy to be the sounding board for a lot of them, because I think a lot of women are not. I mean, I'm sorry to probably if I may sound very cliched, but we need to be more clear in our communication. You have equal opportunities. You have as much access. In fact, you may have better access to venture fund. And what I feel, and all the people have invested in, I've known many of them, and I've known them probably for even 6-7 years, right? So you could always have them as a sounding board to go back and say that, hey, this is what I have, and form that relationship. You have to knock at least 100 doors before the doors open for you, which is true for everyone. I've rejected both men and women equally. I think while, yes, there is an issue in terms of underrepresentation in the VC world, but also, the perceived gap. Like, people might be thinking that, okay, maybe she's not serious enough. Maybe she's just doing this because, she wants more time at hand and she may not be serious. I think that could be an issue. How do you address that? Like, put it up front that, I've been at this.
Okay, there's several aspects in the answer, right? Let's stick to the first one. It was the call to action to please all the women in entrepreneurship learn to pitch. Pooja, is it your experience as well? Do you think women need more pitch training?
I think so as Nita mentioned, that we don't communicate better. There is another angle to it, that we over explain. So I think especially when you're going for these pitches where you have to talk to VCs, we try to explain the tech and why we are doing it and why we'll nail it a lot. I think we need to maybe mellow that down and I think come to the same level as the VCs are in terms of the tech, because we know the tech really in depth. We have been working on it for 3-4 years, but it will not be the same for them. So from that perspective, I think that's one point I wanted to add, that try and not over explain yourself. I think that also comes again from our upbringing of how we want to justify everything that we are doing so that nobody judges us. So I think it sort of comes from that angle as well. So I personally did not face that problem, because my PhD training as such, where you're giving presentations every week, you come to know that I have given 30-second pitches also, I have given 1 hour pitches also. So now I think I know how to do that, but it does not come naturally. There is a lot of training that needs to go. And as again, Nita said, that I think mentoring or mentorship can really help shape that. How do you really communicate and also understand who is at the other side of the table and what do they really need and how much information do they really need for them to understand what you're trying to build.
Cricket, I want to add one more thing, and this is like super critical. I think women take rejection very deeply. So if they get rejected, they think it's a rejection for them, but it's not a rejection of them, it's a rejection of the idea. Versus men take it in the stride and they take it more, personally. Women may take it as a rejection that, oh, my idea is terrible, I'm terrible, I'm going to drop this, right? Versus I would want more women to be out there, go and badger the VCs, if you have somebody who is willing to listen to you, go and ask them for feedback, right? Like ask them for feedback and take it in a constructive way. Because if somebody is ready to give you feedback, they obviously want you to get better. So use that opportunity, network. I think that is really, really important for women to get out of their comfort zone, network as much as possible. And that is the only way, not just as entrepreneurs, and because I have 2 girls out to be soon maybe entrepreneurs themselves, and I remember taking my daughter when she was in 5th grade to some of these talks, right? And she went for some of these women talks as well, and then she's so comfortable. I think that our next generation are not going to have a problem going out there and asking for feedback, asking for network. Indian women or Indians generally, we are very conditioned to not ask questions, not network. We feel it's not very woman-like to go network. Yeah, I'm gonna just pause there now.
Okay, so we have these call to actions. Dearest women, learn to pitch and to be clear and simple in your explanation. The second was learn to network and to present yourself and to introduce yourself to the important people. And the third, let me think, was don't take it personal if your idea is rejected. It's not about your person. Okay, so these are all suggestions to somehow reflect please women reflect yourself. Sophie, you introduced you also with this topic of there are systemic biases. And maybe, I mean, these are good advice, and I guess also for men, right? I mean, keep it simple when you explain something, don't take personal. When you're rejected, network, good advice. But what about these structural biases? If women have, or mothers have, feel hurdles in their very beginning of their career to become part of the system. And maybe it's not all their fault. They could explain in short what they want to do, but they're just not heard because of some structural biases. What do you think, Sophie?
To be honest, I think that's a very good question you just asked me. I have the feeling that in some cases it might be right. Yeah, this attachment might be definitely right. We have some biases that we have systematic biases that we're not taking as seriously. I know, to be honest, in Germany, when you go to a normal job interview as a young lady, maybe between your 20s and 30s, I guess the most people want to ask, do you think you're going to get children soon? Yeah. And I think that's one part actually where it might be difficult when you start a business or when you want to become an entrepreneur, that when you want to start a business, when you're between 20, 30, 35, this will definitely give you a small hurdle actually. But however, I think it's actually in Germany, I don't have the feeling that it's that way actually. I think the biggest hurdle in Germany is to have good childcare, and I think I would really like to compare this to India or maybe to Saudi Arabia.
Yes,
I don't know, is it common in India to get a nanny or a household to support you? Is that normal? Because in Germany, when I would get a household or someone or a nanny, I guess the whole, like, all my neighbors would stare at me like, what the fuck? I'm sorry, what is she doing? Yeah. What is she doing? Yeah.
Thanks, Sophie, for your perspective. Maybe we ask Abba. She was she had these technical issues. Now she's back with us. Abba, could you address the individual level in India, but also the institutional perspective as you run an incubator?
So let me correct you on that. I used to run an incubator. I was the CEO for one of the innovation mission incubators, but now I'm with the government. So I am heading the entrepreneurship department for a complete state. So having seen all these aspects, I completely agree with what Nita and Pooja and Sophie have said about social conditioning. Unfortunately, women are conditioned to listen, not to speak, and also not to, not think about themselves, which is a huge barrier when it comes to entrepreneurship, and especially when you talk about deep tech entrepreneurship, because deep tech takes a lot of time to mature, and getting access to capital is a major hurdle when it comes to such kind of startups. And Pooja, Nita, I mean, let me tell you, like 20 years ago, when I started working in this space, there was a lot of issue with access to capital. Things have changed for the better, but again, it's relatively better. It has not really become the ideal that it should be. And 15 years ago, when this program that we had done with Goldman Sachs for 10,000 women across the globe, this was the major thing which came up. Access to capital for women. There were hardly any women VCs at that particular point of time. And even now, if you look at the number of women VCs versus the male VCs, the percentage is still small. So there's a gap which needs to be addressed. And secondly, like I was talking about, social conditioning. So if we have to break these barriers, it's up to us. We have to stop listening to people who say that you can't do this or you shouldn't do this. So even Sophie talked about like getting a nanny. Without support structures, not even men or male entrepreneurs can succeed. So when it comes to women, why this bias? And so women, you yourself have to like get rid of all those barriers. Stop listening and like Sophie said, WTF.
Yeah.
You really have to say that, and just go ahead with your business. So if the change has come in, if the numbers are increasing from 7 to 18% in the last 5 years, that's because many people, many women have said this and have gone ahead and done a lot of things. So coming back to the government part of it, this is the right time to be in India. And as a women entrepreneur, there are a lot of policies which have been created for women entrepreneurs, and especially in STEM.
Cool.
So yes, absolutely. So
Thank
the
you.
Indian government has done that. So both at the central and the state. Yeah, I'll stop here now because I think I've taken
Thanks.
up more
I
than your
have
time.
a follow-up question for you, Abba. What does, from your point in then, a truly inclusive startup incubator feel like? Not how we could measure it, how much funding is there, how many events, how many cool mentees and mentors, not the numbers, but what is, when I apply, I want to become an entrepreneur, I want to apply for an incubator, an accelerator. How, from your experience and your now being part of the government, how should this incubator feel like?
So Birgit, the thing is that we have to keep gender aside. Ideas are not driven by gender, as simple as that. Ideas are driven by the potential that idea has to become a successful business venture, how good it can be commercially viable. So keep the gender aside and start thinking about the idea per se. The only thing as an inclusive incubator, what we would do is that we would give some extra support systems to those who are underserved or who need that kind of extra support systems. So if it was a lady who was coming in, or if it was somebody who came in from a rural community who didn't know how to pitch, them to polish their pitches, like how to communicate, because not many entrepreneurs with good ideas who come in from the rural areas know how to pitch in English. So we would tell them, like, forget about English. Unless you're pitching to a global audience, many people understand Hindi. Just be yourself, be your true self, but know how to like put your idea across. So that kind of thing, that confidence that you can give to be themselves and to really go ahead, that I think is what an inclusive incubator would be like.
Wow, thank you. So it's about pushing the ideas forward, and if there are some needs, we fix them, but it's not about gender. Sophie, do you want to add something?
Yes, because I'm leading this women program at University of Rostock. I used to lead a female founders incubator at University of Greifswald, actually. And we had like 15 women in our field. It was from very different fields, actually. And we had, I made the experience that the most valuable part of our incubator was the safe space the women created and the network the women created between each other. The ideas were completely different. It was scientist. It was some product, very different stuff actually. And the network they created was the most valuable thing. After we consider it, after 2-3 years, someone still came up to me and said, "So we still have this network, and we are so thankful for that actually." So that is also something I want to give in this round, because the safe space they created, the network, the experiences they give to each other were like one of the most valuable things, especially in the start of our incubator in Germany, actually.
Thanks, Pooja. You want to add something for Sophie?
Yeah, so I just have quick 2 examples of how we can support women entrepreneurs. One is, we are incubated at C Camp in Bangalore, and C Camp has a wonderful daycare facility where they let you, admit your kids from 3 months of age to whatever. There's no maximum limit of that. And I've talked to a lot of my friends who are there. Either they are founders or they are employees at different startups in C Camp, and it helps them a lot. So that's one great example of how an incubator or an ecosystem or an institute can really help promote women entrepreneurs or in general women at workplaces. And second example I would like to give, a few years back we were hiring for a position, and I got an application from a woman who had been on a maternity break for 3 years, and she had 8 years of experience before that, but was finding it very, very difficult to get back to the workforce, because people were like, you have taken 3 years break, we'll not give you the hike. They were paying her lesser than what she was earning. So when I interviewed her, I really liked her. She was technically really sound. Only thing she asked us was, can you give me some time flexibility? Like, instead of coming at 9 a.m., can I come by 10 a.m.? Can I get once in a while work from home? We gave her that. She worked with us for 2 years, and now she's working at a very big firm at a very good position. So I think, and this was a small thing that we had to give. And actually, this provision was not gender specific. Even if a male we are a startup, we are a small team, we would let them also do that. But for a woman, the impact it had that we let her have flexible work hours and work from home made a huge difference, because where our office was there at that time, we did not have a daycare where she could bring her daughter who was just 2 years old. So I think these systemic changes where we have these support systems for women, these don't have to be specifically for women. Even a man can bring their child for the daycare. So these are small steps that we can take, which can make things very easy for women in general.
Thank you so much. So it's again here the flexibility, which counts a lot. Also, if being an entrepreneur is about being flexible, right? And then working in a environment where there's this this culture that being there, you're doing a good job, and being not seen, you're doing not a good job. I mean, this is crazy, sort of, right? I have another statistic for you, and it's kind of summing up what you said right now. And I'm happy if you can share your thoughts. So the first one who has a comment in mind, just speak up. So I share again my screen, and thank you for waiting a sec. It's loading. It gives us a moment to breathe, maybe to make some yoga. I don't know. Here we go. So if you can see it again. Can you see it? So the question is, what has to be fixed? And again, it's a gender, it's the OECD Gender Equity Toolkit, and it says that over 70% of female-focused programs emphasize coaching and soft skills. It's this communications thing. It's this where women have to be empowered in how they present themselves. Sophie, you mentioned these safe spaces, then they feel more comfortable to speak up, to train themselves, to reflect on how they pitch, for example. But in the study, they say, well, less than 20% intervene structurally. It means they do not focus on these. I come back to the to the structural biases we have, and all the things you mentioned before, that there's a lack of women role models, a lack of female VCs. But how, this is my question, and maybe you have a suggestion or some comments on that. How could we solve a structural problem? Is it by empowering even more the women? Is it by educating the men? Or is it like, how could we manage here the spice? Nita.
I think while we're talking about women, we're forgetting the other stakeholders, which are the men, which are often right the power of position and make the decisions, right? So let's not forget them. And then I think the power of having mentors, male mentors, while we're talking about women empowering each other, having communities and calling out. I think a lot of these gender biases need to be discussed. I'm part of, since I did my MBA from Indian School of Business, we have an amazing community. It's on WhatsApp, where we call out gender biases, right? We talk about how workplace, issues need to be addressed. And then, and I'll get to a couple of more points, but I think getting back to the mentors, we need men mentors, champions, really more champions, because, I realized this very late in my career, and I got a male mentor, and he needs to be, at least he or she, can be a she as well, like at a director or a CXO position, because they see things which you have not seen, right? So I'll give you an example. When I was making my career shift from a corporate, from Medtronic/Science to the VC world, this was a huge shift for me. I mean, I was in a leadership position and I didn't want to move, but you get a VC opportunity, it's a once in a lifetime. And I really didn't want to move. And I was like, I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. Should I be moving? And he said, Nita, I think you wanted to do this about 10 years back, but here's your chance. And it's like going on the rocket ship. You're at the pilot seat. Would you not want to be on it? I mean, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can always come back to your corporate career. And, I have to thank this gentleman for guiding me. And that's when I realized, if I have such kind of mentors who can see your path ahead of time, or like maybe because I just wasn't exposed to that many areas or that many fields, and even see, maybe even he didn't, but at least he could foresee that, or see something which I didn't see about myself. I feel each one of us, each entrepreneur, also needs such kind of senior mentors. They can see their pitfalls. They can see like if you need to pivot in your, startup journey, if you need to, let's say bring up even the childcare with your, let's say somebody, investors, so, and also I think going back to Sophie, that, if you were to go to somebody and you have your child and they ask you about, whether you're going to be pregnant or whether you're going to have child, I don't think that person is the right person to be either being your investor or actually you call it out, right? I think there's stories, I believe it's Canva. If you've used Canva, I think Melanie Parker, when she went for her, and I think she must have gone to 500 investors, and she was visibly pregnant. And the person who actually invested in her absolutely did not ever bring it up. I mean, if you have done that and they see the drive, the right person will invest in you. The right person will be your boss. Let's say if some of them are planning any corporate careers. And those are the kind of people you want to be your champions. Those are kind of people who you want them to back you, right? I think, so I'll pause there and let others continue.
Thanks. So big plaidoyer for having a mentor that sees the woman or the mentee 2, 5, 10 years ahead, and has this possible career pathways in mind, and can push the mentee forward, right? Abba, you want to add something? You raised your hand.
Thank you, Birgit. See, a little background. Having mentored nearly 2,000 women, there's one thing I'd like to bring to the notice. There are strong women, women who are ready to go ahead, face things, and challenge the difficulties. And then there are women who play the victim card, right? I mean, we have both. So there has to be a balance when we are talking about bringing in lots of things, lots of changes. So one of the things definitely that I agree with Nita is that you should have more men. Even this panel, if you look at it, it's all women. So if you want to have a more balanced perspective, you need to have both men and women. Whatever be the topic, whatever be the perspective, you need to have both. So that's one point that I wanted to make. Second is speak up. A very simple anecdote I'll say from my own career path. 30 years ago, I was working in a small town. My office had sent me there to check out on some quality issues. A 22-year-old, and there was no female bathrooms. So, I mean, the only bathroom which was available, toilet which was available, was either the CEO's or I used the men's washroom. So then another one was created, but you have to speak up. It's small things, but then you have to speak up. So that's the second thing that I wanted to bring to the to this panel. And quickly for the third one, I just saw a question here. There was a lady asking that she's doing a postdoc, she has kids, and she also wants to start a career in entrepreneurship. So what should she do? And this is a question most of us face. There are so many interests. What do we do? The only answer I have found is get support systems. I mean, I myself am having like, I think 7 or 8 hats. I am a mother myself, and I have ventures of my own. I am working in the government. So there's a lot of things that I do. But the only thing which has worked out is get reliable support systems. That's how you can go ahead. And yeah, I think I'll stop here.
Thank you, Abba. Pooja, you share your thoughts, and then I have another statistics for.
Just one quick fact on what we can do to provide support system to women is having paternity leaves, and not just focus on maternity leaves, because that really puts a lot of burden just on the women, that you give birth, you also go to work, you also take the leave. But once her leave is over, if the husband could also take 3 or 4 months of leave, which is very uncommon. I don't think in India we have that strong paternity leave guidelines or laws. But if we have that, I think that will be really helpful to a lot of women. That's it. Thanks.
Sophie, you share your thoughts, and I will share statistics and go just straightforward.
I keep it short and simple because of maternity. We have it here in Germany. It's actually nearly a little bit over a year, actually. And to be honest, it can be very good. On the other hand, it can be very bad. Okay, to be honest. On one hand, it's super nice. You can focus on your child. It's amazing. But you won't get any support within this time. It's not able to get child support within the first year. You can't bring a kid to kindergarten in that case. Yeah, you have to rely on your family and your other support network. It can be very hard. And to be honest, I developed like 2 business ideas within my maternity leave because I was so bored at home. Yeah, to be honest. So it was not boring, but it felt something was missing in my mind. And this is one good part, but you have to be also very, you have to keep your mind busy in that case, not just being a mother. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Sophie. So Nita, do you give me a sec to share?
I have a fact here, and I think this study is a bit old. I need to find whether it's been updated. This was a couple of years back, where they did a study on Harvard graduates. I think the top Ivy League graduates. This is Harvard Business School. You would expect the woman there to be like in the CXO position in the next 5-10 years. There were like less than 5% women who were in CXO position, or like I think less than even 10% working who graduated from Harvard. I mean, I think this is a shocking statistic coming from like a top institution. And so that says, I mean, like this is a global problem. It's not, country specific problem. This is a global problem. I also want to point out that, men need to step in, your husbands, all of our husbands, right? Like all our spouses, partners, they need to step in to be equal partners in childcare. And of course, I'm equally guilty. Of course, but I would say that my husband did put in my first child, first 6 months, because I was writing my PhD thesis at that point. I have not taken care of my child. He's super close to her. He took care of all her needs, I think so. And this was like in US, we don't have nanny, we didn't have any child support system. So he was hands-on, even with my second child. This was again between 2 postdocs. I needed to maintain my visa status. So needed to, go back, and I interviewed for my second position fully pregnant. I was like about 7 months pregnant. And that this is where I say that, if your PI, the principal investigator, is really looks beyond your, ability to, childcare and things like that, looks at your work rather than, just. So he hired me, and I was super grateful. I went back to work within a month. Again, had great support system, which was the childcare system there, which is great. One more thing I want to point out is, if they're still younger women here on this group, the person who you marry determines, what your career is going to be. Because, if you're an ambitious woman, you really need a supportive spouse. Otherwise, your career, and these are like, there are numerous studies on this. I'm not making this anecdotally, but there's numerous studies on the person who, a single woman can be far more successful versus a married woman. And then so hence it's super important for you to, for a woman to really determine if you want to be an entrepreneur, the person needs to be, your partner needs to be equally, respectful, equally supportive of all your career decisions, and encourage you to, because you're going to be facing more failures than success, right? And then going through those ups and downs of entrepreneurship is equally, super challenging. So one needs to be mindful of that as well. So
thanks. So thank you so much for sharing your personal insights. I want to in the last minutes to focus again on the institutional level, and here I have statistics and another statistic and a question for you. It's about actually the exist specific funding in Germany. So maybe Sophie, you could answer. But here is the statistic from Germany, which I was very surprised when I saw that. Here we go. And it says, when the desire to start a business arises, women versus men. And I found that very interesting. So it's the beginning of the career in youth, start of career later in their career. So this is on the left, women, and men on the right. I mean, Sophie, could you answer the question? Do we need more women-specific funding for entrepreneurs when we see that? Because the sweet spot seems to be not in the youth, but then after, when they start, or the sweet spot maybe is in between being a postdoc and then realizing that scientific career could be not the best one, because only, I don't know, 2 or 3% of them would or can stay in science. So how, like, do we need more funding and more, should we put more effort to address women here? Because obviously there's great potential.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. We definitely need more funding systems. We need.
Are you in mute now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. We definitely need more programs to encourage women to do their own businesses, to do their research and found out of a business after that, actually, because we have so many nice scientific researchers here in Germany, actually, and it's a shame, like a lot of them come from women, and they just leave it. They say, okay, I'm staying a scientist. It's not, I'm just not gonna leave it. But when they see I made something out of it, but I don't have a position anymore in my university, because in Germany we have a law that states that you can only stay 6 years before your PhD at the universities and 6 years afterwards. It's a Wissenschaftszeitarbeitsgesetz, super complicated thing. That's maybe the reason why women in that age sector see the perspective of founding their own business. And that's where Exist Women, the program, actually steps in and shows scientists, PhDs, that there's another option. And that's a great part. And we definitely need to extend this program. We need more funding. We need to encourage women to take part of that. And this program is a very low, has a very low level. We start with like in basic income for 3 months, depending whether you're a student, where you're a PhD or whatever, between 1,000 and 3,000 euros per month for 3 months. Yeah, it helps you to encourage your business idea. A very low level, not a big process, and that's actually what we need to encourage women to fund their own business. Not big hurdles, low hurdles, starting their own business, and see that there's another option.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Aber what do you think for India? Is there a similar pathway to foster female entrepreneurship, addressing the sweet spot of scientific women?
Well, I don't think that sweet spot has been addressed, but there has been an overarching policy which has been made for women entrepreneurs. So again, like we say, gender doesn't matter when it comes to good ideas. Age also should not matter, because I've seen some very good business ventures being set up by women who are 35, 45. Even I've seen one lady who started her venture when she had just crossed 60. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as the confidence is there, the networks are there, age doesn't matter. But what I have seen is that the younger entrepreneurs who start off early are the ones who either come from a wealth or they have their own support systems. So normally women, from the statistics that I have here with me, in India, we have seen that the women who go in for entrepreneurship usually ranges from 30 to 60 onwards. Like, I mean, I mean, it's a big range, but women, I mean, the number of, the percentage of women going in for entrepreneurship is more across 30, because they have created their own networks, they have some experience, and now they have the confidence to start on their own. So that's the way it's here in India. So
Thanks. Thank you so much. So we have 5 minutes left. I have a final slide that I want to share with you, and I want every one of you just comment briefly, because we only have 5 minutes, so 30 seconds on the slide to sum up all our discussion, which is hard because, I mean, so many perspectives in the room and so many opinions and experiences and suggestions. And here's the slide. Just a few seconds. Here we go. So there's Falguni Nayar, and she said, I had to win twice. First the idea, then the right to own it. As we heard in this discussion, many women don't lack ideas. They lack maybe rooms that take them seriously. And the final the final questions here, maybe you comment on are, do we need to prepare women better? So is it, we come back to this first perspective, we empower women, or should we more think of how fixing the room? And this was the last question of, is there a good institutional and political way to foster female entrepreneurship? So your thoughts on these two perspectives, your final thoughts. Sophie, do you want to start? Sorry, you mute. No, she is not ready yet. Maybe Pooja, you start.
Yeah, Vipin. So I think it's a mix of both the things, that we need to prepare women better and we also need to fix the room. So I'll give examples. So because I'm a woman entrepreneur, I keep attending some webinars, or I keep meeting other women founders, or women who are planning to be founders at C Camp or other events that keep happening in Bangalore. And I've noticed that a lot of them are not aware of the schemes that we already have, like Startup India scheme. We have this big Barak grant, to which any technology focused company can apply and get the grant. So I see there's a lot of lack of information. I don't think it's specific to women entrepreneurs. It might be specific. It might be true for everyone. But I specifically talked to many of them, and I've realized that what is this scheme? How can we apply? Where can we apply? Very, very basic questions. And I myself got to know about these things when I started my journey of startup founding, and how to even register a company and how to go about it. So yeah.
Thanks. So it's about also transparency, more communication of what is possible. Sophie, do you want to continue very briefly?
Yeah, sorry, I just answered the question in the chat. It's quite important, actually. Yeah, to be honest, yes, I definitely agree with you in that case. It's hard to participate, and we definitely need more transparency in every case. In Germany, the system is super, super untransparent and very complicated, especially as a foreigner. You definitely need support in that. You need a mentor. It's definitely something you need in order to fund the business. And to be honest, the German tax system is very complicated. So I definitely recommend to always take experts in different kind of fields. That's definitely one thing that we need as an incubator. We need as an entrepreneur. We need experts for every kind of field in that, not to struggle with crazy ideas that it is coming back to you when we have some problems, especially with Finanzamt in Germany. It's
Thank you, Sophie. Aber, your final comments.
Well, I think both the sites need to be fixed. I mean, the room needs to be fixed. I mean, the policies need to be put more, made more streamlined, more transparent. And yes, I completely agree, even though I'm working with the government, that some of the policies and some of the methods are just not transparent enough. And that's something that we have to work on. And from the entrepreneur side also, I think they also need to put in their homework. I mean, many times they just don't do what is required before they come onto the platform. So both, yes, I'll stop there.
Thanks, Ava. And Nita, last brief comment. We have 2:00 at our time, at least. So
I like what Abba said, that both sides of the room needs to be fixed.
yeah.
For the entrepreneurs, I have suggestion that network. For women especially, they need to get out of the comfort zone, go network, even if you don't think this is pertinent to your, like a startup event. Get out of your comfort zone. You will meet at least one person who may be useful, who will give you some feedback or a future reference, and never think that any connection is going to be the present connection. The connection will be useful 2 years down the line. So, just be friends, be in touch, get out of your comfort zone. For men, I would say hunker down and make your product rather than be more visible. But for women, I would say be more visible, go meet people and ideas or feedback, not ideas. You have your ideas are amazing. Get feedback.
Thanks, Nita. So thank you for all your time and your effort you put into this panel. Thank you for the listeners and your comments in the chat, and see you around. I would hand over to Adishri to maybe to the last words of this web talk. They are for you.
Now I needed to unmute myself after such a motivating discussion on a Monday. I think the only thing that leaves me to say is thank you to the panelists. Thank you so much. This was a very exciting discussion. Thanks for bringing in your personal anecdotes, experiences, and for having a very frank session, like a frank discussion here, and not toning down what you wanted to say. We appreciate that. To the listeners, thank you so much for staying in for the last 1.5 hours, and thanks for bearing with the technical difficulties that we had. I would thanks so much, Birgit, for getting us all together, and the wonderful moderation. Loved the statistics and the quotes, especially that you brought in to make the discussion livelier. I would like to highlight before closing that tomorrow we would have another web talk where we would talk about entrepreneurship. So encouraging professors, students to get into entrepreneurship at an academic institution and at research institutions. So the web talk also happens tomorrow, 4 p.m. India time. Join in as we will get perspectives from institutions in India and Germany. And also hear from scientists who had a spin-off from their research careers and are now successful founders. So thank you very much and have a nice day or a nice evening wherever you are. Bye-bye.